Alright guys, here we go with a throw-in tutorial. So this is for the Accurate Glide Pure or Link. My Pure is called the Peast. But for those of you that throw the fuse, check out Daniel's video. Awesome video. I kind of tailored mine to his so it can be very relatable and comparable. But I'm just not quite as technical as Daniel with the pullbacks and the adjustments and everything for wind and height and elevation. But I'm going to kind of walk you through my process. As far as aim point, some people just open up the default and pull back from there, just kind of adjust the pullback from that default aim point. If that works for you, great. That's not what I do. Although sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I know I can make it, I'll do that, but you can kind of adjust based off of that aim point. Some people like to bring the aim point down a little bit, but still keep it centered. Because the Pure is a little more stable, I'm usually adjusting depending on the wind, and I'm usually going to come off to the right a little bit, depending on how much I think it's going to fade. For this 59 footer, first I'll go through my pullback. So right here is about 50 feet for me, 150, and then all the way down, just depends on the wind and everything, but usually about 210 for backhand. So for this one, that's 50 for like a flat level, and then like 60, 70 feet, 80 feet. Right there is about 90 feet, 100 feet, 120, and then as you get farther, like each little pull adds a lot more. So right there is about 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, and then close to 200, 210 for full pullback. So for this one, I'm just going to be coming just past that first line, and it should be dead center. We'll go back a little farther each time, just kind of like Daniel did. So for the next one, we'll be closer to, we're going to do about 78 feet for this one. And again, my pullback power, I like to adjust my aim a little bit. So this is a little farther, so it's going to fade a little more because there's more time for it. So I'm going to go to the right a little more, but I usually have that bottom chevron in the middle of the chains. So 50, 150, and then full power. So for this one, I'm going to come back about to there, and there you go. Again, a lot of mine is just feel. I just kind of go by what feels right and what looks right. I know it's not the best advice, but that's kind of just experience and practice, and just get used to. Most of these are going to be in one winds to start, and then we'll kind of start adjusting for winds. But this one's back to almost 100 foot, 97 foot. So again, you could just kind of adjust the pullback, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to adjust my aim point. So it's going to fade a lot more from 100 feet, 50 feet, 150. So for 97, we're going to be about right there. So I'm going to kind of go through my rhythm again. Throws me off to go that slow. And there it is. A little high on that one, so pull back a little too hard, but still got it to go. There's definitely room for error. It doesn't have to be exact. You can usually make them if you're anywhere close to the right distance. So this is a fun one. This is a common area to end up, and you should practice this throw in for sure. I'm not going to show you how I do quite yet. I'm going to show you kind of how I've been showing you on this one with my aim point. But typically, if I can get down here, I feel pretty confident in making it on a forehand throw, full power. I'll kind of show you the alignment for that and the pullback, but I'm not going to throw it. I'll throw the regular throw from 150. So from 153, we are going to adjust our aim point a little bit. So again, that's kind of what a lot of people are going to put it right there. My forehand throw, you can either, and it helps a lot to get good at throwing forehand and backhand. So if you haven't practiced both, it definitely comes in handy. This is my aim point on this distance, on this hole, just because there's the backdrop, and I know I'm going to hit the backstop afterwards. Backhand here, you got to worry about going long over there if you miss. That's why I like to throw forehand. But as far as my throw, I like to put top chevron right on top of the basket from this distance. And then I give a full power about that much hyzer, and that's my typical shot from here. But I'm not going to show you that type of shot quite yet. I'm just going to go with the regular shot, back to backhand, and back up to kind of the regular aim point. So we're going to adjust because this is 150 feet, so we're going to aim to the right quite a bit to account for the fade. And remember, the longer the throw, the more it's going to have time to fade. And then 150 feet, 200. So we're going to go down to about just before the 150 marks. It's a little downhill and get it to go. Definitely a shot you want to practice. It'll get you lots of eagles right there if you can get to that spot. Practice getting there and then practice throwing from there. 200 feet. So like I said, this is usually about a little less than full pullback backhand, and forehand it's pretty much a full pullback. It's a good distance for a pure. On this particular hole, I don't go with that same aim point like this. This is kind of what I do. I take a little bit off of it. Otherwise it would go long, but I have a lot more success by putting the middle chevron right on the basket like so. And it's pretty much a straight pullback with minor adjustments for the wind. Forehand, if I was going to throw this forehand, it might be a little short on this hole, but that would be my aim point. But my aim point for this hole regularly, middle chevron right above the basket, and a straight pullback. Oh, I'm going to miss that one. That was way off. I've been having a hard time on this hole lately. Usually I can make it like 50% of the time, but let's try this again. Let's rethrow it here. That's more like it. So you can see middle chevron is the perfect distance for this. That way I don't have to worry about taking some power off. I can just pull straight down on that hole. So for elevated baskets, this is 68 feet elevated. It's not really high, but it is elevated. So I'm going to add about 10 feet to this throw. No wind, so I don't really have to think about wind. I'm just going to use my same aim point. Some people like to change their aim point depending on if it's elevated. I just always go middle of the chains with that bottom arrow. And then from here, there's 50, 150. So I'm going to come to 50, go to about 60. Then I would add 10 to that. It's about right there. So I'm going to reset. So again, add about 10 feet and it should be just about right for the elevated baskets that aren't really elevated and no elevation change. It's also important to learn how to throw downhill as well. This is a common spot to end up where you got to throw it downhill. Not a huge downhill throw, but it is something I'd have to consider and probably take about 10 feet of distance off for this type of throw. Again, I don't change my aim point. If I'm throwing uphill or downhill, my aim points are the same. I just adjust my power. Some people like to adjust their aim point and then throw similar power-wise, but again, you got to find out what works for you. I just like to always do the same aim point, which is going to be 75 feet. So I'm going to go about right there, and then I'm going to take about 10 feet off of power for this. So throw this as if it was a 65 footer. So about right there would be 75 feet for me. So I'm going to not pull back quite that far. About right there. And dead center. So it's important to learn how to throw downhill as well, especially when you start getting severe downhills. This is one that's elevated like a lot more. So this is something I'd probably add about 30 feet to. So we're sitting at 104 feet. Again, I don't adjust my aim point at all. Some people like to aim a little higher than pull back the same. So 104 would be about right there. I'm going to add about 30 feet to that. So pull this back to about 135, 140. And bam. So you just kind of get used to how high you're going up or how high the hill is or how much downhill, and then just kind of adjust from there. So now we'll get into headwinds, tailwinds, and side winds. So with headwinds, definitely going to lift your disc. It's going to add some distance too for the shorter throws, but once you start getting farther and farther back, it's definitely going to take a lot of distance off your throws. So just keep that in mind. So for this type of throw, it's going to add some distance and it's going to lift it. So 86 feet. Again, I don't change my aim point at all. I'm just going to change my pullback power. So I'm going to take quite a bit off of this, probably like 30 feet with this head forewind. It's going to lift it up and carry quite a ways. So 86 typically would be about right there for me. But we're going to go down to about 65 feet as far as pullback strength, maybe even 60. These four winds are tough. So right there is about 60, and still able to carry all the way there. So my recommendation for these types of winds is just go play windswept fields over and over until you get used to these throw-ins from 100 feet and in. So here we got a tailwind, a big 4 tailwind from 100 feet, a little bit left to right. Just know that the left to right actually makes a huge impact, even if it's just a little bit. And tailwinds, something that was hard for me to adjust to. I'm used to like the wind slamming it down to the ground when it's a tailwind. But if you're actually throwing it, it's going to add quite a bit of distance as well. So just think big winds, it's going to add distance to your throws, whether it be side, tail, or headwind. So 100 feet, I'm going to put my aim just where I normally do. That's where I would normally put it, and that's about my normal pullback. But we got a huge 4 left to right wind, so I'm going to put this right in the middle because of how much left to right that's going to take it. And then I'm going to take about, I don't know, about 40 off of this, maybe 35. So I'm going to go down to about 65, 70 power maybe. About right there, 65, 70-ish. And you can see how much that carries. So that's a tailwind. Again, go play windswept fields and practice these throw-ins. That's really the only way you're going to get better at them, but it's a lot of touch, a lot of feel. But I'm trying to explain as best I can kind of my thought process for these winds. Here we got a strong left to right wind. So again, I'm going to show you my normal aim point and pullback if there was no wind, and then I'll show you kind of my adjustments. So we're 82 feet out. We got a big 3 left to right. Definitely pay attention if it's kind of a left to right tail or left to right headwind, because that will come into play. But just think big wind, it's going to go farther, even if it's a side wind. So I'm going to be taking some power off of this. So that's kind of my normal aim point and my normal pullback. But we got that huge left to right, so I'm going to make sure I aim pretty much dead center, maybe even a little on the left side. And then take about 30 off of the pullback, maybe 25. And we got that to go. So again, even if it's a side wind, just expect it to carry a little farther than it would have otherwise. Unless it's like a pretty far throw and it's a big headwind, then it's definitely going to take some distance off. It'll lift at first, but then it'll start cutting off distance quick. So here we got a right to left, same type of thing. There's kind of my normal aim point here for 77 feet. And I would come back to about right there. But because of this wind, I am going to adjust my aim point so I can still pull straight down. And I'm going to take about 20 feet off of this. And there you go. Maybe about 15 feet off of that. I threw that about 60 power. So I hope you are learning something so far. Talked about kind of throwing on flat, throwing uphill, throwing downhill, throwing in big winds. So just get out and play and put it all together. I want to show you some of my holes that I use throw-ins on and my aim points with the Peast. So with this one, again, I like to aim right at it versus so I can pull full power instead of have to adjust with kind of a regular aim point like we've been talking. This is big time downhill, that's why I can get there with the Peast. So top chevron right in line with the top of the basket. And then normally in a one wind, I'm going to pull straight down with about a half a disc of hyzer. But because there's a left to right wind, I'm going to add just a little bit more hyzer than that. Not much. You don't have to adjust a lot for wind on this hyzer. So I'm going to go a little bit more. And this is looking good. There you go. If I would have done a disc of hyzer, that would have missed left. So there's my aim point for that hole. It's going to show you some of my favorite holes for throw-ins with the Pure, just in case you're considering that disc. All right, so I love having the Pure for this throw. If I can get inside 200, I love my chances. I don't like to go backhand because I don't want to miss long over on the left side, all that water. So I like to go forehand. Very similar strategy, similar kind of aim point just on the left side of the basket. You can see that backstop behind if I miss on this. So aim about right there, and then I add about 15 feet. So right there's about 175, and then I add a little bit more because it's a forehand, not a backhand. And there you go, dead center. So that's definitely one I've gotten really good at. And if I miss, I know I'm going to be safe most often, much more often than if I were to throw backhand. Here's another one that I love to have, the pure. So with 170, this is a common spot you end up on this hole. Middle chevron right on the basket. That way I can go full power. And with this wind, should be pretty much a straight pull down. So a little bit different kind of strategy, but just one of those shots that I like to memorize. My get in there, my pullback and aim point. If you're able to get a little closer, then I adjust a little bit. If you can get farther down the cliff, like this shot here. So 163, then I put the top chevron, just kind of pointed down at the basket. And straight pull down here, get in, and we got it to go. So definitely another hole that it comes in handy. Just kind of walk you through some of the holes where I love to have the pure, and I kind of have the throw-ins kind of memorized. This is a very common spot on this Grizzly Gulch hole. Tough throw-in. This is going to kind of combine everything we talked about earlier. So uphill, 3 wind, same aim point. But that headwind's going to lift us up, even though we're going uphill. So I'm going to add maybe about 10 feet to what I would normally throw. I know it doesn't seem like enough, but for this hole, throwing uphill, especially into that headwind, it's going to lift it up and it carries right to the hole. For this throw, I like to try to hit this log when I'm not going for it for the water skip. I like to use that tree in the background just in case I miss. I like to use that tree as a backstop if I can, that way I don't go in the water. But from 155, I'm usually going for this at a forehand. That's going to be my aim point. It's downhill. So I'm going to go about to 150, maybe a little farther, and we got it. So I went just about 155, 160 power-wise. I had to add some because it's forehand, but it kind of takes some off because it's downhill, but practice that throw-in as well. This is another throw-in you want to practice. This is one that a lot of people will get, but it can be really challenging. So we got a 2 headwind, 121, uphill big time. My kind of typical thing on this is to add about 30 feet of distance of power. So I'm going to pull back to about 150 here. And, oh, we just slid over the basket. So there's another one that I love to throw the pure on. This Frozen Valley hole, this is a great example of a downhill throw. I usually take about 20 feet off of this throw. Got a little bit of a right to left headwind. So I'm going to take about maybe 30 off of here. Throw it to about 75, 80 power. And we got it to go. Another one you want to practice if you can get a good drive, you want to be able to capitalize on it. Here's another favorite of mine. If I can somehow get my drive on the left side of this hill, anywhere from like 155 to 145, I love my chances. Similar to that crow's nest hole. So rather than aim way up there, I'm okay going long. So I'm going to do a full power shot, top chevron right on the basket there. And similar to my other one, about a half disc of hyzer. And I love my chances. Get up. Oh, just high enough. So again, if I can get there, I have a solid chance at making that eagle. Here's a great example of a downhill throw that you're going to be throwing often. 65 feet, take about 15 feet off. I almost
wide.
Didn't take enough
Both got
off.
a little bit of
Here's
a throw
another
left.
example
92
in
feet.
Multiplayer of an uphill.
Oh, he comes up short. So this is my
30
opening.
Here, 92 feet uphill. I'm going to add about 30 to this one, 25.
Got it to go.
Got that one to go.
Nice.
So again, so much of this is just feel. I'm not sitting there calculating. I'm just kind of aiming, looking at the wind, and then kind of adjusting based off of feel. And it pays off to practice your throw-ins, trust me. As you can see with this multiplayer round, that kept me in the lead with the solo win. But there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're looking to throw the pure, I hope this helps as far as how to do it. If you're looking to throw the fuse, check Daniel's video out. A windbreak disc is probably a better option for throw-ins, but I've just gone too far throwing the pure, so it's too late to turn back now. And I love the disc. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed. And as always, thanks for watching me play some DGV.